Mad Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1954 Japanese spectacular Seven Samurai.
できん相談だな。
Hey, that's not fair. I think we're going to have a great review here. That's because we have such great material to work with. This movie has sword fighting, it has action, it has drama, it has romance, it has everything you could ever want in a movie.
Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escape.
Okay, well, it has most of those things. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920s silent movie era, and now I'm at 1954 with Seven Samurai. So this movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 97% fresh rating from the audience, and that is that's tied for the highest score out of any movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics. It is tied with 12 Angry Men, which also has a 97% fresh rating from the audience. This movie also is ranked 20 on IMDb in their top 150, and the recent Sight and Sound poll that just came out has this movie also at 20th. So this is acclaimed and it is loved by everyone around the world. So Seven Samurai was directed by Kurosawa and stars Toshio Mifune as Kikuchio and Takashi Shimura as Kambei. Now, this wasn't the first time that I've seen Seven Samurai. This is probably the third or fourth time that I've seen it. But prior to seeing this movie, I originally saw The Magnificent Seven, which was a Western that is basically the American version of Seven Samurai. And I loved that Western so much that I started doing some research. This was probably, 20 years ago. And as I was doing research, I realized that it was remade from Seven Samurai. And then at that point, I had to see this movie. And I'll tell you, this movie is so much better than The Magnificent Seven. I was absolutely blown away. Now, this movie has been redone numerous times, both in the US and other countries. I think the plot of this was also used in A Bug's Life, which is absolutely amazing. So Kurosawa's influence spreads through all genres, all types of film, all different countries. He was a masterful filmmaker, and this movie is no exception. So roughly, when we are introduced to this movie, we are first shown a group of bandits who are robbing this small town, basically blind of all their crops and all their supplies. They basically only leave this town enough crops and enough food to live. Now, this town, the people of this town, they finally have had enough. They're fed up. They can no longer live like this anymore. But they're also incredibly afraid because they're not fighters. They're just farmers. They have no idea what they're going to do to be able to fight back against these bandits. And these bandits realize that. That's why they're choosing this particular village to pillage, because there's really nothing that they can do. So they end up meeting with the elder in the village, and they decide that they are going to try to hire samurai to fight off these bandits. Now, they realize that this is a undertaking that is not going to be easy, because samurais normally won't, all they have to offer these samurais is food, and this is not something a samurai would normally take in order to fight this type of fight. They want fame, they want fortune, they want everything that a hero is afforded when they do hero deeds. So they go into the town, and when they first try to hire a samurai, it goes a bit badly in that the first guy laughs at them and basically says that there's no reason for him to help them. Like, he doesn't care that their village is being plundered because there's nothing in it for him. So distraught, they kind of meander about the town, thinking that they're not going to find anyone to take on this challenge, they're not going to find anyone who is going to help them save their village. When they think that all hope is lost, they see Kambei. Now, Kambei has entered this situation where there's a child that's being held hostage in a hut. Now, the hostage taker is a bit crazy, and he's telling everyone that if they try to come into the hut, if they try to send someone in to attack him, that he will kill the child. So they're trying to come up with a way to get this child safely out of the hut without harming the child in any way. Now, Kambei has already come up with an idea. He shaves his head. He asks if he could borrow some rice from the village. They give him some rice. He knocks on the hut door and he basically tells the guy that he's a monk and that he is just trying to give the child food. That's all he wants to do. He's unarmed. He has no way of hurting anyone. Now, they have no idea that this, the guy in the hut has no idea that he is a samurai, so he opens the door and he lets him in, and then Kambei just rushes in and saves the kid and kills the intruder. Kills the guy who's holding the kid at large. So when the people of the village who are trying to hire him, a samurai, when they see this, they realize that this might be the guy. This might be someone who cares enough, who has a big enough heart to help them without wanting anything in return. So after this happens, there are two would-be samurai who are following Kambei just following him as he's walking by, and they ask him if they can be his protege. They can be like his vassal. Now he says he doesn't take on proteges, he doesn't take on vassals, but they can follow him if they want. He's just walking down this road, no problem. Now it's at this point the villagers they beg him, please save our city, please save our town. Now this is off screen. We don't see them doing this. We just see one of the villagers get down on his knees and say, please. And then the next scene, we are shown Kambei and the other two would-be samurais. Now, Kambei is thinking this out. He's pondering how this could work and how they would be able to do this, because it's not an easy situation. Where there's 40 bandits and only 3 samurai, it's not going to work, and he knows that. He knows that they're going to have to find other samurai, but it's also going to be very difficult to do this. So they end up formulating a test to test the would-be samurai, where they have the youngest protege stand behind a wall, and then they invite the samurai in, and the young kid tries to attack the samurai from behind. If the samurai can dodge his attack, then that means he's good enough to be in this party that they're formulating to save the city. So they end up getting a few samurai. There's another scene where they're looking at another prospective samurai, and this guy is in a sword fight, and it's not a very long sword fight, but the way this sword fight is shot and the way it's framed and the way it's filmed is absolutely amazing. The samurai that they want to ask into their team, he ends up winning and he joins. So eventually they get the 7 samurai that they need, and they start walking around the town trying to figure out how they're going to plan their defense of the city. Now there's one area of the town where they decide they're going to build a barricade, another area of the town that they're going to flood on purpose so that they can't get in the horses.
ここは麦を買ったらすぐ水を入れる。水谷してしまえばここは防げるが。
And it's very strategic, and it's a very amazing plan that they come with. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, at the same time, the villagers are a little worried because they are worried samurai have this reputation about them where they like to pillage cities and they like to kind of have their way with the women in the village. So they're afraid that the samurai are going to come in and that they're going to try to have their way with their wives and with their daughters. So one of the main citizens of this village, he decides that he's going to have his daughter dressed as a boy so that the samurai won't be attracted to her and the samurai won't try to hit on her. Now, Eventually, the youngest samurai, well, the protege, the one who is kind of wet behind the ears, he ends up noticing that this is a girl, and he falls in love with her, and she falls in love with him. But it's a love that the father will not allow, because he will not allow his daughter to be in love with a samurai. That's kind of a side story in this movie, but it's still, I would say, an important story nonetheless. So they're training these citizens of the town to learn how to fight. They're training them to learn how to protect themselves. There's at one point in the movie where Kikuchio, now he has this really fantastic speech in the movie where he reveals that he was once a farmer, and he's talking about how these people, because these people in the town are at first treat these samurai like they're different, like they're going to eventually like turn their backs on the town, like they're going to not fully honor the contract that they had where they're going to protect the town. And Kikuchio, he gives this great speech about how he was a farmer as a boy when he grew up, and how the samurai would come to their village and they would steal all the grain and steal all the food, and how these farmers probably have food and stuff hidden away that the samurais don't know about, because what else can they do? Like, the samurai are people that they have to look up to because they're great warriors, but they're also people who have not treated the farmers very well in the past. So there's this tension between the farmers and the samurai at first that it's very hard for them to cut through. But eventually they do cut through it, and one big reason is because of Kikuchio, and they end up formulating a bond, a really strong bond with these villagers, and a really strong bond with the children of the village, to where they no longer fear these samurai. They're actually friends, and they're actually personable, and they like to goof around with each other and have fun with each other. But they also know that this is a very dire situation as well, where they're trying to defend their village. So the bandits finally come to the village. They finally start attacking. Now these defenses hold up really well. There's some really great scenes where they're able to funnel only one bandit in at a time, the way their defenses are set up, and they can kill one bandit at a time, which is really awesome. There's also a scene later on where the bandits decide to burn down a hut. When they burn down the hut, there's a woman and a child in the hut, and Kikuchio goes to save the woman and the child, but the woman has pretty much been she's pretty much not doing very well. She's in critical condition, and she's about ready to die, and she hands her son off to Kikuchio, and he takes the son, and in a really really amazing moment, he starts talking about how this was him as a child, how the same thing happened to him, and this is how he became, like when he was a farmer, this is why he wanted to be a samurai. And it's just a really, really touching movement. So eventually, I'm not going to do the whole 3.5-hour movie here, but eventually the farmers, they are able to win. They are able to kill the last of the bandits. Now, it's at a really big loss to the group of samurais, because they lose four samurais. So at the end of the movie, there's only 3 left. But the villagers end up winning, and they end up getting their town back, and that's the movie. So this movie is fantastic. I mean, this movie can't get anything but a 10 out of 10, and that's what I'm going to end up giving it. The cinematography is unmatched. The way the camera captures these scenes is absolutely amazing. In black and white movies, I would assume it's really hard to get the lighting correct, but the lighting effects and the way they're able to to get shadows on these characters is absolutely stunning. Now, I watched this movie in Blu-ray, so I've also seen it in non-Blu-ray, and it's just as fantastic. But in Blu-ray, this is really the way to watch this movie. It is so spectacular. The acting is amazing. The script is fantastic. The action, I mean, for a 1954 movie. I've seen a few movies now in the 1950s, and even if we want to go back to the 40s, and this movie has the most action that I've ever seen in a movie from this time period. It's incredible the way the camera is always able to keep itself like honed in on the action. It's absolutely amazing. Some of my favorite scenes in this movie are scenes where it's raining. I say this because I remember some of the most vivid memories I have for movies when I was a kid is watching Rashomon. And there's a scene in Rashomon, also by Kurosawa, where it's just pouring down rain. And watching this movie where it's also, there's scenes where just rain is dumping down on these actors, and you can see the breath as if like, you can tell that they're cold because you can see the breath, and it's just fantastic how he's able to film this movie. It's incredible. And I mean, for me, I was even more excited and more in awe about how these guys are just able to stand out in the rain wearing almost nothing.
残るは13機。これは全部裏入れん。
It's incredible. This movie is spectacular in every way imaginable. The script is fantastic. I mean, Kurosawa is considered one of the masters of directing, one of the masters of film, and this movie really showcases that. There's not a lot I can say that other people haven't said about this movie, besides the fact that this movie has influenced so many other movies, and I guarantee you, if you love Star Wars, this movie influenced Star Wars. There's a little bit of this movie in probably every movie that you've ever seen. Now, someone goes into this movie, they're going to see that it's 3.5 hours, it's black and white, it's in Japanese. They might be a little put off by that. They might be a little scared of that. I'll tell you, the first time I saw it, and even now when I see it, I go through 3.5 hours and I'm wondering, like, why is that it? Like, I need more of this movie. Because it's just, the pacing is just incredible. There's not a dull moment in this movie. There's not a moment in this movie where there's no action, where there's no suspense, where there's, you're not on the edge of your seat. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. And these characters, they're written in a way that you absolutely love every single samurai, you love every single character, and they bring so much heart to this movie. This is a movie where these samurai, they do what they're doing for nothing. Like, there's no fame, there's no fortune, there's nothing. They're just doing this because they want to help this town, they want to help the city because it's the right thing to do. And as they develop this relationship with the people in the city, with the people in the town, it's so heartwarming. This movie will just completely fill your heart with so much joy in what's going on. Now, at the end, obviously, there has to be some sort of tragedy at the end. Some of your favorite people, some of your favorite samurais will perish in the end, but you know that they perished for something good, that they saved this town, and that they were willing to perish for this. They were willing to die for this cause, and you almost feel like a sense of happiness at the end, even though they died. But you feel a sense of happiness because they died for what they believed in, and they died for what they wanted to die for. And it's absolutely mesmerizing. This whole movie is mesmerizing from top to bottom. It will be in probably my top 5 movies after I rate all the movies. When all this is done, it'll definitely be in the top 10, but I'm sure it'll probably be somewhere in the top 5, just because it is a masterpiece. It is thrilling to watch, and I think everyone who just wants to watch a movie that's just going to fill them with so much joy while having action and suspense, everyone should watch this movie. Clearly, it's a 10 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you have a good day.